Hi everyone, Jessica here from Paper Ink Stamp and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video we are looking at Simply Cards and Papercraft issue 230, and with this set you get the beautiful bouquets, you get the 17-piece stamp set, and you get the mason jar template as well. So you can create a fun shaped card. So we have this template just here, so we'll have to see how we can put this together. And then we have lots of other pieces. You've got a tag, or two tags there, sorry, a couple of different flowers, and then you have some leaves in there as well. And then for our actual stamp set, so we have the outline of the jar, which I believe, yeah, so you can stamp that onto there, and that is going to add that detail for you. You've got this really beautiful sentiment, have the happiest of birthdays. I absolutely love that. Some other sentiments in here as well, and then you've got the two really big bouquets. Now I love just how big these are, so just to give you a rough idea, sort of at its widest point you're talking about 4.25 inches, and then sort of high you've got about 4.5, 4.75, something like that for that one. So again, roughly kind of the same, a little bit shorter on that one down there, but absolutely beautiful. I just love how big these are. You've got some stems then as well, so you could add that on the inside of your jar. You've got this lovely big bow, you've got some rope just here, and then other little bits of foliage. So definitely in today's video we're going to be having a look at how to create the actual jar card itself, and then maybe we can have a look at different ways of using the big bouquets. But yeah, I absolutely love just how big these are. I think that is so beautiful. So let's take a look in the magazine and see, hopefully they're going to have some instructions in here for us on how to create the actual jar itself. So to begin with, we have got Nikki's Makes, again using that jar. So you've got 3 here using the template. So you've got 2 here with the flowers are at the top of the jar, and you know, different ways of colouring them in and making them look as full as possible. You've got this one down here which is just the jar. We'll have to have a look at this one, and it looks like the flowers are just inside the jar and then actually using it on a card as well. So 4 different ways there of being able to use it. So it has got Master the 3D Floral Mason Jar Vase. So you have got a template just here. So use a pencil to draw around it. I'm going to cut both shapes. So do we need to also draw a single outline without the tabs as well? So it looks like we do kind of make it 3D there. That's cool. So we can go through all of that, how to create it. You can also, you've got some downloads in here as well. So usually they've got a bunch. Let's just have a look on here. So you've got 10 downloadable papers and 2 topper sheets as well, which will go nicely with these designs. So yeah, so we have got then all of the instructions. We've got using it normally like a normal style card. You do have a template on here as well, I'm guessing, to recreate this card here. But again, yeah, lots of different cards and projects and things that you can create with this set. Like I said, for me, it really is all about the size of the florals, which I'm absolutely loving. So we've got some here by Ashley, who was one of the other Card Maker of the Year winners last year. So she's made, you've got a gift card holder. We have got this one here. It says Cherish Special Moments. That might just be a card for that one. So we have got a box there. Again, you can download the template from the Craft World website for that one. Absolutely brilliant. We have got this one here, looks like a gift box, which has then got the card on top of it, so that's pretty cool as well. Yeah, so this one, create a surprise pop-up element inside your card. That's pretty cool. So we want to create something a little bit different. We've got maybe a bag there for a gift card. So again, just lots of different things that you can do with this set. Let's take a look at what comes included in next month's issue. This one goes on sale on the 2nd of June. This is Fabulous Feathers. So in here you've got a 17-piece layering stamp set. For the feathers, you've got different sentiments in there. We've got a coordinating stamp and outline die from Stampendous there. So you've got those flowers. And then we are getting, and you can download 29 digital papers and toppers as well. So absolutely perfect. Again, that goes on sale the 2nd of June. So that was a look at the magazine and the free gift. So let's get into creating our own 3D mason jar with our florals. So for this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use this template and how you can then adjust it depending on what it is you want to do and what your final look is going to be looking like. So to begin with, you want to draw around your template completely, and also draw in those score lines as well, just so you know where you need to score. Then what you're going to do is flip this over because we need to add another tab to that left hand side. I took a little bit of my tape runner and just added it onto this template just so I could make sure this was staying exactly where I wanted it to be while I was drawing around it. So I lined up the mason jar with the first drawing that I did, and then just added in that left hand tab. Then what you need to do is just to draw around the actual jar portion of the template. So you've got the single jar front, and then you've got the jar then with those tabs. So I'm using some of the Tonic Studios Craft Perfect cardstock. This is the apricot orange here. This is, I believe it's 216 GSM, so this is a good size because this is going to be your card base. You definitely want something that's going to be a little bit heavier. I have drawn around this template on the back of the cardstock, so not on the weaved side. And then what I'm going to do is fold it over, and then the weaved pattern is going to be on the outside just for a little extra detail there. But what you are going to want to do if you are drawing on the side you're going to be using is to make sure you rub out any of your pencil marks. So I've just drawn around the front, so just the single mason jar. So the idea of this is what I'm cutting out here is going to be the back, the sides and the bottom, and then you have that single mason jar which is going to be for the front of your card. So again, just carefully going around it. You might find that it doesn't cut out exactly the same. Obviously you're not using a die here, you're just drawing around it and cutting it out freehand. If you have something like a Brother Scan and Cut, if you have a silhouette, something that you can kind of scan the design in and get that to cut out, you could do that. You could also, so for example, I have a Brother Scan and Cut, I could then save this into my Scan and Cut machine, and then I never have to kind of draw around it again. I can literally just get it cut out straight from there. So I'm going to take a scoreboard, and what you want to do is just score down all of those additional lines that you've cut. So you've got the actual flap there next to the mason jar, and then you have your little tabs there. You can see I'm just adding in this pencil mark. You've got those. So you're going to have two sets of lines for all three of these tabs here that you are going to want to score. So with this particular design, I'm going to show you how to alter this, but this will give you that big 3D. It's quite thick, so you've got a lot of room here to either turn it into something like a gift box, maybe something like that, but you have a lot of space in here if you want to add a lot of flowers. So I'm just going to go ahead and fold and burnish all of these score lines just so you can really get an idea of how thick this is going to be. So you can see that you've got the sides and the bottom. So what you can do, if you want this to close flat, which is what I want, you can cut that bottom portion off. It does tell you that in, I think it was Nikki's instructions in the magazine. If you want this to fold down, cut that bottom flap off. If you want it to stay 3D, you know, maybe you're going to just display it, you're going to hand deliver it, maybe you are going to put it in a box envelope, something like that, then fine, keep the base on. If you want it to go flat into an envelope, do cut that base off. Then I'm going to add this jar detail. So this is one of the stamps from the stamp set. I'm going to add this in. So I've just popped my front, so just this is the single piece of the mason jar, pop that into my MISTI, and I am going to then ink up this in the VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and then I am going to use some clear embossing powder just to help keep that and help dry it and give it a nice little shine. What I would suggest, if you want it to look like the jar isn't see-through, so you've just got the jar, because obviously I've done a coloured jar here, maybe you could say it doesn't really make any sense because it's not see-through, because you could make this out of acetate maybe, or vellum or something. If you had a stronger piece, you could have of course make this look like the jar is see-through. But what I would say, and probably what I would do next time if I'm using this from coloured cardstock, is you have that curve at the bottom of this stamp, and that makes it look like it's showing you kind of the base at the back, because it's giving you more of a 3D look. I would actually mask that off and not stamp that, and it just looks like it's a mason jar, but that isn't see-through, so it's like it could be like a painted mason jar, something like that. That is probably what I would do next time. You also have the stamp then for the stems, a lot of different lengths, which I think is very nice, which you can stamp in there as well if you want it to look like you can see through your jar. So lots of different options here of what you can do. Again, so you can have the thicker where it just stays as it is. You can have what I've done here, cutting the base off so you're able to put it into an envelope, and I'm going to show you one other thing that you can do with this as well. But for now, let's put this together. So I'm just going to add some glue onto the tabs. If you want this to stay together a lot more permanently, you can use red liner tape, because that is extremely strong tape, and I'm just laying it flat. I'm popping my stamped mason jar on top, making sure that the bases line up, because you want this to stand up evenly, so make sure you're lining up your bottom too. And you can see how thick that is. It's probably about an inch thick, I would say, so you know, you've got a good amount of space in there. And before I alter this again, I'm going to show you, I'm going to pull out both of these large florals, and you can see sort of how this would look if you add these florals in. So you can add it in front of this the rim of it, so you can pop the flowers on the front, and then you can also put this larger one you can have on the inside, or again if you use something like acetate, then you'll be able to see the stems, because this one does already have the stems on there. So you've got a lot of space in the middle. So that was kind of what I maybe wasn't as keen on, because I'd want to fill that entirely. I wouldn't want to have that massive gap there, but you know, you could literally bulk this out humongously. But I'm going to alter this again. So again, if you want to have something that's slightly thinner, then you can adjust it. And that's really what's great about this, having a template, is you can adjust it to be exactly how you want it to be. So I've just cut the back off of this, and I'm simply just trimming down these sides. So you don't have to have it as thick. Mine ends up being very, very thin. Not very thick at all, but I get a really nice curve in it by the end. So do keep watching, you know, for that. And it does stand up on its own, even with the flowers and things in it. It still works perfectly. So I'm going to take my score tool again, and I'm going to add those little flaps again. And we're basically just going to rebuild this in the exact same way that it's, you know, the template is designed to work. So I've got those little flaps on there, and you can see it's just going to be so much thinner. Again, I'm going to add my glue to the little tabs that I've created. I think these were very, very thin. Maybe it was like 1/8 of an inch. I'm not 100% sure what it was. I think it was that though. And I'm simply just going to put it back together again. So what you can do when you've drawn around your template, you can adjust it at that point, rather than, you know, how I've done it now. I just wanted to show you all sort of different combinations that you could include. So with this, you can see how small it is now. You could put this inside a card if you wanted to, if you can do like a pop-up element maybe. You could just have this on your card as extra dimension. And you can see that I've just sort of bowed both of the back and the front out, and it does still stand up. And like I said, this is standing up nicely. You've still got space to put your flowers in the back if you want to. You can still put these in the front if you want to. Tons and tons of opportunity with this template. I hope that's given you some different ideas of what you can do. I'm just going to go ahead now and kind of finish this off using it as it is, but hopefully yeah, that's just giving you some ideas of what else you can kind of do with this. So I'm going to put both of these, I want to use both of these two stamp sets, so I'm going to stamp both of them. This is some Nina cardstock. This is Copic friendly cardstock, and I'm going to just trim this down. The reason why I trim these down is because I've only got a mini Misty basically. I prefer my Misty to my Tim Holtz stamping platform, to be honest. So I do try to fit as much as I possibly can into here. So I usually just cut my cardstock down. I'm going to stamp this in some Memento ink, but I am still going to, because I've got my clear embossing tub out, so I just ended up pretty much embossing everything. But it does give you just a little bit of extra detail, a little bit of shine, and just those raised edges as well. So I use my anti-static powder tool on the cardstock to begin with, and then I stamped my image, and then I could just pour this out onto some cardstock, but I just kind of shimmy it around inside this tub here. And I'm going to pop that one to one side, and then I can heat emboss both of them at the same time. Then I'm going to put in my second image and basically just repeat the process. Use my anti-static powder bag. I'm going to stamp our image, and then I am going to coat this again in that clear embossing ink and then melt both of these. So now I've got these all finished, I can go ahead and start colouring these. So lots of different mediums you can use for these. I'm going to do just a little bit of Copic colouring here, really nothing too extraordinary, very, very simple. I'm going to use yellow, orange and turquoise, a little bit of like a lilac, and then of course green for the leaves and that. But you know, you can watercolour these. These would be perfect for some no-line watercolouring as well. Loads of different ways to colour these in, and these are how they finished, and I have then just fussy cut around these. I probably could have come in some areas to get rid of more of the white, so you could see more of what was behind that, but I really do love how these are looking, and it works perfectly with that apricot cardstock as well. So what I'm going to do is the one with the stems that's slightly taller, that is going to get glued into the inside, and then the other bunch is going to come on the front of our jar. I'm also going to stamp a sentiment, and I'm also going to stamp that bow as well, which I think is really, really cute. So I couldn't decide initially whether I wanted to stamp the sentiment directly onto the jar, but I thought I would stamp it onto a separate piece of cardstock. So I'm going through my scraps here, and I'm using, I think it's the Arctic blue I am using for my bow, and then it is the mauve purple that I'm using for my sentiment. So I've just taken a scrap. This is where I like to keep all of my scraps, and I keep them in these little storage pockets as well on my desk, so they're really easy to get to, and I'm not constantly just cutting into new cardstock. I'm going to cover this again with my clear embossing powder. Like I said, I just have the tub on my desk, and yeah, pretty much just using it for everything. For my sentiment, I am going to die cut this with a with a label shape from Spellbinders. I think it's label 17, I think it was. The sentiment doesn't 100% fit into the die cut. It just cuts the sort of a little bit of the loop of the Y off, but I'm okay with that. I did originally want to heat emboss that with some gold embossing powder, but to be honest, I completely forgot all about it, and I ended up just stamping it in black along with then that clear embossing powder as well. So here I am. So these are the dies. There's a pack of nesting dies, and I always find that I'm in between sizes with these. It is a little bit frustrating, but of course then the sentiments that I've got here, they aren't really designed to go in these perfectly. So I just decided, rather than having something humongous that was going to cover up a lot of the jar, I figured that I would just deal with the fact that it had cut off a little bit of that Y, and just be okay with it. So now I've got kind of everything picked out that I was looking for. So again, just stamping that in my, I think this was the VersaFine Onyx Black. I find that it just gives a much better impression first time. It's a really great ink pad, but obviously it stays wetter for longer. That's one of the reasons why I tend to use embossing powder with this particular ink pad. So again, just going to melt that embossing powder, and to help it not warp as much, I'm melting it and heating it from the front and the back. So I'm just going to work out exactly where I'm going to put this die cut. So like I said, I already know I'm going to cut the bottom portion off, so it's just sort of working out exactly where that's going to sit, and I'm going to run that through my Gemini Mini. So this is the new embossing folder, the new cut-in folder that I purchased. I showed you in that recent haul video, and yeah, it's so lovely because it's still so smooth and straight and flat that it just glides through that manual die cutting machine. So there we have our sentiment. I am just going to fussy cut around this bow. I did try to go as close to the black edge as possible. It has got a nice thick edge, so it's a lot easier to do. But in some areas you can still see that cardstock. But if that bothers you, you could go around it with a black fine liner or just a black pen to, you know, hide that coloured cardstock underneath. But it's nice just to use some coloured cardstock. You could colour this in really nicely as well. I did decide to add just some really light blue. I think I used B04, I think it was, just to add a few details on this, just some little flicks. I could have gone like a lot further with it, but I pretty much just kind of left it there. But again, it's a really nice size bow as well if you want to practice any of your colouring and try to get those like curved looks and things like that. That would be a really good image to use for that. So now we can just put all of this together since I have all of my elements. So again, this taller one is going to go and stick to the inside of the back. So I'm just adding some of this Nuvo glue in there and just trying to get that position just right. Again, so I put it a little higher because again, I still want you to be able to see behind it. And then, like I said before, I'm just going to add some glue to this, and it's going to be glued onto the front of the jar. So again, like I said, there are areas where I could have trimmed it more when I was fussy cutting around it, so you could see more of that back, the back piece. But still, I really love how this ended up looking. And again, because then I didn't make it quite as thick, it did it doesn't look like you've got such a big gap sort of from the front and the back, which I much prefer. Then I added a little bit of glue onto the bow, and I just tucked this very slightly under that front piece, and then I'm going to add the sentiment on top of that left piece of the kind of tail, but then underneath that right hand side, so that's still kind of lifted up slightly. And then I thought, really, just to finish this, I might add just a handful of gems on here. So I am going to pull out in a second the Chloe's Creative cards. I think these are like the bling packs. I'm not 100% sure what they're called, but I picked up the these ones, which are sort of the iridescent ones. Really, really beautiful. 3 different sizes in here. And you've got then the completely clear ones. You've got these ones, which have lots of colours in them. And then you've got the 2 shades of pink in there as well. So I did 2 large, 2 medium. One of those is going to go in the centre of the bow, and then I just did a smaller one as well. And I'm using my new embellishment wand here. This is the first time that I've pulled this one out. The reason why I purchased a new one was because my previous one had a black tip on it. This one is white. I found that the black one was leaving a few marks on some of my projects. So I did, and you couldn't change, I did have a look and you couldn't change the end on that one. But on these ones you can, so you can unscrew them and get new ones for it. I think this was the Dovecraft embellishment wand, but this one, because it's white, it won't leave kind of black smudges and things on my projects. So that is this finished card. So again, hopefully this video was helpful to you in terms of how to use this template, and then hopefully it's given you a few ideas of how you can use it differently. You know, we all are going to think about different ways of using it, but it's just showing you that you can kind of adjust it, and this fits better for me. Like I said, it does still stand up, but it's not as thick, which I do prefer. And of course then the stamp set I think is beautiful. You've got that jar which you can use, you know, without that template as well, and those stamps are really beautiful in size. So I just added some shimmer pen onto that, and that is this card finished. So if you did like it, please give this video a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do so you don't miss out on any future videos. And I will leave a link over for the Craft Stash website in the description box down below if you want to go ahead and purchase this magazines. You will find other links also to my Etsy channel in the description box as well, so do check that out if you want to see what I've got over there, which includes my 2 paper ink stamp sets. So that's it for today. Thanks very much for watching, and happy crafting.